All right, you ready?
One more second. Do you see my sweet screen switch?
Yes.
Thank you. Good.
All right, here we go. All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for today's webinar, Advancing Education, Seamless Accessibility Every Day. So before we get started, just a reminder, go ahead and feel free to use the chat and tell us who you are, where you're from, your role in education, and share your X handle so that we can form that community and follow each other. It's an amazing way to share just the community, the resources, all of that. So as we're going through the beginning and the whole webinar, remember you can use the chat area if you have any questions, and we'll read and react to those questions that you post at the end, or if they're pertinent during the webinar itself. You can also post questions using that Q&A feature down at the bottom of your screen. We'll collect those questions and address them at the end as well. If you can't see the slides or you're having some technical issues, go ahead and close the webinar and rejoin using that same link that you did to join the first time. And if you're using a dual monitor setup, maybe you have a few more tabs open like I do all the time, check behind any of those open windows for another Zoom window lurking. It happens to the best of us. And don't forget, an on-demand version of this webinar will be available about 30 minutes after we conclude our session today. And you can see all of our recordings and register for future webinars at www.forward-edge.net/webinars. And again, feel free to share that X handle and get on X and share your favorite thing that you learned today, or just share the wealth and the resources. We're so excited that you chose to spend some time with us today during this really hectic time of year and this chilly day where I'm in the world's itchiest sweater. So thanks for hanging out with us. I'm really excited to bring my friend in. So let's go ahead and get started. My name is Tori Millette, and I am an instructional design coach here in Cincinnati, Ohio for Forward Edge. And I'm really, really excited to have my friend Rachel here with me today to present our information. So keep your eyes on the chat for any links, any resources, any people you might want to follow and reach out to. Again, really trying to build that community. So a little bit about who we are. Forward Edge is a K-12 technology company. And when I say that, I mean we do everything from supplying the materials, the networks, and just all the things that you would need to be up and running in a school, from that to actually having people go in and run those cables that hang the projectors, the monitors, all those different tech tools that we use on a day-to-day basis. So we've got a lot of different areas that go into the schools and make sure teachers and staff and students have all the technological tools that they need to teach the students of today. Now, a little over 3 years ago, we began to focus heavily on the curriculum and integration side. So once you have that technology in the hands of students and teachers, what are you going to do to use it effectively? That's where we and CNI come in. We all come from a varied educational background and a variety of classroom experiences, and that gives us a lot of information to take back to the teachers, the districts, and the students that we serve. So the bottom line of that, we offer visioning and planning services, we provide professional development, and we serve as on-site integration coaches for schools. So that's a little bit about us here at Forward Edge, and without further ado, Rachel, I'm turning the spotlight over to you. I can't wait to hear what you have for us today.
All right. Thank you so much, Tori. As Tori said, my name's Rachel, and I am a 24-year veteran educator. Most of my educational career has been in high school or junior high language arts, although I did have a 3-year stint teaching kindergarten. My hat's off to those of you who have made it more than 3 years teaching kindergartners. You are saints. So as we get started today, I want to talk a little bit about the ISTE standards that I'm going to touch on in our conversation about accessibility. And that first ISTE standard is about being learners and how we are lifelong learners and how we look for ways to leverage technology to boost our students' learning. The second standard is that leadership standard, which allows us to be advocates for our students and knowing that Every student can learn. We just have to figure out a way to meet those needs. And then lastly, that standard of being a designer, where we design authentic learning for our students with that technology at our fingertips, so that learning is deep and active for every student possible. Today's agenda, we're going to kind of touch on very surface level, the gist of the Universal Design for Learning, and you'll hear me refer to that as UDL throughout the webinar today. Secondly, we're going to think through 3 pillars of UDL, which are engagement, representation, and expression as it pertains to our instruction and our content delivery. And then lastly, we will touch on some practical strategies, talk about some tools that you can use to work smarter, not harder, and save yourself some time while also enhancing your delivery of content. So let's get started. What is Universal Design for Learning, or UDL? Well, as a veteran English teacher, super important for me to find the dictionary definition, but I think I've kind of done better than that today. And I've used the Center for Universal Design's definition, which says the design of teaching and learning products and environments to be usable by all people to the greatest extent possible without the need for adaptation or specialized design. To me, the phrase that stands out in that definition is without the need for adaptation or specialized design. That's key for me. But I feel like that is a very wordy definition, hard to wrap my head around. And so I started to dig a little deeper in this and decided to use the analogy that many of you may have already heard of, and that's the analogy of the curb cut effect. We'll talk a little bit about this at length, but first I want to read this quote by civil rights attorney Angela Blackwell to kind of set this whole idea up. She says, "There's an ingrained societal suspicion that intentionally supporting one group hurts another, that equity is a zero-sum game. In fact, when the nation targets support where it's needed most, when we create the circumstances that allow those who've been left behind to participate and contribute fully, everyone wins." So I did a little digging and found that after World War II, disabled veterans were coming home and they were wheelchair bound. And so our nation decided, after lots of conversation, I'll keep it friendly like that, that we would cut the curbs so that our veterans could access the street, cross the street more easily, and they wouldn't have to go to the nearest driveway to cross the street. What we found as a nation is by cutting curbs is that this was a game changer for so many people in our society. Moms with strollers, people on bicycles, skates, skateboards, people wheeling luggage. This cutting a curb impacted all of humanity in some way or another. And ultimately, most importantly, it benefited almost everyone. Now, one select group that it initially did not benefit were those who were blind or visually impaired. Often they used the curb to let them know when they were stepping into the street. However, we added something later, this tactile paving. I don't know if you've ever seen the bumps along, like near a curb cut, where you feel those little blisters kind of on the pavement. That's to let people who are visually impaired know that you're about to step off of the curb or into the street. So this whole idea of the curb cut effect is a great analogy for education, because we are always on a journey to make sure that we can reach more kids and impact them so that they can learn more, no matter what their needs are. And it's a journey. It's never a destination, right? So thinking about, the answer was not to put the curbs back. The answer was to accommodate and make it better when we found out there was a problem for another group of people. And when everybody can safely walk off of a curb into the street or cross the street, everybody wins. So I love this idea and this analogy. It's very pertinent and relevant. Now, your wheels might be turning and you might be thinking about, okay, what are some other analogies that our everyday life that I could apply this to my classroom, my content delivery. And I want to encourage you to think about that. Can you think of any everyday life examples like the curb cut that might serve as an analogy for UDL in your classroom? You can put it in the chat if you want, or you can just think about it, write it down. I'll give you a second to think about it. Okay, feel free to interrupt me, Tori, if anybody puts anything in the chat here, later, whenever, but I'm going to move on. Okay, so let's kind of look at the three pillars of universal design for learning. This whole idea that there are multiple means of engagement, representation, and action and expression. You can see here the infographic, the three different colors of the brain, starting with the green innermost, that why behind learning in this engagement. Now, as a teacher, I often think, okay, well, my kids are engaged because they're on the edge of their seat and I'm highly entertaining as their teacher, which probably isn't true, but it might play a part if you're a really good teacher. But you've also been bored in your favorite teacher's classroom at some point in time. Engagement is not just entertainment. It's not just interest. It's asking yourself, do my students have the skills and the knowledge prior to me delivering this content in order to understand what it is I'm trying to convey and what I'm trying to teach them? That is engagement. And also, I'll talk about this a lot throughout the rest of the time together today, but this whole idea of knowing your students. Relationship building is key. It's number one to knowing your kids. And if you can tie real world examples into your content delivery, into your curriculum, then you're connecting with your kids and ultimately engaging them. The second part, moving to the bottom of this graphic, is this idea of representation, expanding our toolbox as teachers to expose our kids to different kinds of content in order to teach them and deliver that instruction. So thinking about, in my growing up years, we had physical textbooks, right? The idea of, okay, I'm going to go to social studies, you read the passage, we're going to do round robin style. So instead of paying attention, I decided to count how many passages down when I was going to have to read so I can make sure I could pronounce all the words. But then you might have a need to buy one large textbook. And so for someone who has trouble seeing, right? So this idea of only having a physical textbook to deliver content is super antiquated. Now you might have physical textbooks, but you also might have digital textbooks, which, like the curb cut effect, immediately is a game changer. You can instantly create large text. You instantly have text to speech options for those who need to have text read aloud to them. You can use AI to summarize the text because you can put it from one platform to another. You can change your font for students who have dyslexia. There's so many kinds of students and types of learners that this affects and impacts in a positive way. And all you did was turn a physical textbook to digital. That's just one example. But we have YouTube videos to deliver content with translation and closed captioning. We have interactive simulations in our science and math classes. We have peer tutoring. I know when I was teaching kindergarten for that short stint, I had a student who struggled just with simple short A sounds. And I had one of her peers who was a really good reader pair up with her and teach her in a way that I was unable to do. So just thinking about how the what as we present information to our students, how we do that, what we give them to access the content. Okay, so moving on to this third pillar here, this action and expression, and that phrase of how by any means necessary. We want our students to demonstrate what they know and their level of understanding of what they know by any means necessary. Coming from someone who started teaching in 1999, like there was only one way, right? I took the standardized test, or I took the multiple choice quiz because that's the only test my teacher wanted to make. I had to handwrite my 10-page term paper on Rudyard Kipling and turn it in a manila envelope. Well, what if the goal is to report on someone or to persuade someone and convince them to believe a certain thing? Does it actually matter how the student does that? Obviously, you have to look at the standard. If the standard is to write a 5-paragraph essay, can they speak the 5-paragraph essay to a computer and it types for them because they have dysgraphia? What is the goal? And let our students meet that goal by any means necessary, express their knowledge and their understanding. So those are kind of the 3 pillars that we're addressing today, and I want you to kind of put that in your mind as we think a little bit more deeply about this universal design for learning. Now, this next question I'm going to ask you, it rubbed me the wrong way the first time I saw it. An educator by the name of Crystal Trapani did a professional learning session with us at Forward Edge this past summer, and she posed this question. When designing content, who are you okay with excluding? Now, and instantly I was like, no one. I don't want to exclude anyone ever when I want them to learn, right? But then I had to take a step or two back and say, okay, well, if I'm teaching a unit on a specific novel, then who am I excluding in the way that I teach? I know in our hearts we want to exclude no one, but what does our content delivery, the way we instruct our kids, how does it scream, leave no one behind? That's something for us to really think about. How can I reframe my mindset as an educator to be sure that I include as many students as possible in every part of my instruction? Okay. So now we're going to move on a little to some practical strategies of maybe how we can go about leaving no one behind and making sure that it's fully accessible without killing ourselves as teachers, because I know time is, our number one enemy, especially today. So let's look at some of these. Now I have this broken down into teacher side, student side, but they do cross over each other. And obviously teachers need to know about the tools in order for the students to use the tools. But here are just a few practical ways that you can leverage technology. And I'm all of these are free. Some of them might have some paid versions, but you can access these for free. So the first one is in both columns, right? Mote is a great way for you to provide verbal feedback, audio feedback to your students, and they can do the same back to you. It's a Chrome extension, super easy to use, very intuitive. I think most of you, if not all of you, have heard of Canva, and this is a graphic design. I call it graphic design for dummies because anybody can use it, even me. In presenting things to your students as far as content is concerned, you can do that in video, audio, slide decks. There's just so many ways you can use Canva with flyers, and just it's never ending. But your students then can also use Canva to present what they know. They can do slideshows, videos, audio recordings, presentations. They can just create. They can do comic strips. They can do character designs. All kinds of things, which leads me to Book Creator and Storyboard That. Both of those are tools in the student column of being able to design specific creations that demonstrate their knowledge, and they're both very user friendly. I've used both of them with my high school students, and they're very just super colorful and professional looking, but the kids can pick up on it and use them very easily. So let's go back to the teacher side of things. Magic School is an AI tool specifically for teachers. It's pretty new on the scene, and it is changing every day and growing. They're going to have a Magic School student version here starting in January, I believe, teaching our students about AI. But it's a way for you, Magic School, you can use it to give you lesson plan ideas. You can use it to create choice boards for your students to let them have voice and choice in demonstrating their knowledge. You can use it to level text. So if you can find text that you have in digital format. You can put it into Magic School and it will level it to be more challenging or a little lower in Lexile level. So you should check out Magic School for sure. We've included the link to Crystal Trapani's ePortfolio, which is way too long for today, but it was too much information, and it's amazing information about accessibility things. And then one more thing I want to touch on the student side is this Corgi. I had never seen this before, but in preparation for today's webinar, a colleague of mine showed it to me, and it's this, at minimum, it is an interactive graphic organizer platform that's free. Your students can use it, interact with any graphic organizer you can think of is on Corgi, but there's more. That's just the very basic understanding of what it is, but you should totally check it out. So those are some tools that you can use. There are more. And just, again, getting to know your students is key here. All right, moving along. Now, you guys, I'm sure have seen this graphic or this illustration of equality versus equity. Probably 15 years ago, I was introduced to an educator named Rick Wormeli. He wrote a book called Fair is Not Equal. And I love that. I kind of use it as a mantra a lot. And so what might be, he used this example. He said, if everything was equal, then I could put a handicap sticker on my car and park in the front and get to the grocery store quickly in the rain. And he's like, but that's not fair, right? So giving kids what they need when they need it. So this idea of choice boards, I've already mentioned it. Captions. Now, this is a personal example, but I don't need captions on my TV. However, my house is very small and you can hear the TV from the other room. So at night, when people are trying to sleep, I turn my volume down and I turn the captions on. I don't need them, but I use them. And they help me understand what's going on the TV. That's a silly example, but why not take advantage of the tools that I have access to? When you're presenting instructions to your students, why not say the instructions out loud and put them in writing and maybe even associate some images or icons with the words? That hits everyone, every modality. And then knowing the context of your students, where they come from, who they are, what their home life is like, just to create that equity. All right, now to wrap up today, I kind of want to wrap this up with a bow on this idea of bringing on the buffet. Imagine you're hosting a dinner party at your house. You would likely know you're inviting 30 people. Now, you're not going to make 30 individual dishes, one for each person. That's differentiated instruction. But you do know the needs of and the preferences of your friends. So you're going to kind of display this as a buffet. You're going to know their tastes, their preferences, restrictions, allergies, and you're going to create this sampling of tons of different food to anticipate the needs of your guests. You're going to give them plenty of options, and some of your guests may sample everything on your buffet. Some of them are going to avoid items that might cause them anxiety or harm due to allergies or restrictions. Some of them are going to be curious to sample something they've never seen or tried before. Some people are going to take a little of everything just because. But the idea here is that every guest at your dinner party can personalize their plate according to their preference, more importantly, according to their needs. And that gives the dinner guests ownership of what they take onto their plate. Thinking of your students, giving them ownership of their learning. The goal ultimately of your dinner party is to have a successful dinner party where everyone feels cared about and they leave satisfied. Thinking about your classroom. Your students leave your classroom cared about and having satisfied the learning objectives and the goals. So I'll leave you with a quote at the bottom of the screen. If you observe students, they will teach you how to teach them. And that is so true. Thank you so much. I'm going to turn it back over to Tori to wrap up. And thank you so much for being here today.
Rachel, I'm just blown away by how you took such a big idea and made it bite-sized for this in reality 22-minute webinar, because that's about the amount of time that you get to talk about your jam over here. So as you
Thanks.
were talking, we do have some comments and people cheering you on that I want to share. Of course, we've got people that love Canva, like myself. I've never thought of myself as a really artistic person, but artistic and creative are two different things. And I've learned with Canva, even though I'm not a Canva queen yet, I still have the opportunity to be more artistically creative with something that's a little easier for me to manipulate. So we've got a lot of Canva fans in our comments over here, and Jordan was talking about how the captions are like the curb cut effect. It benefits everybody, and I was thinking about that myself, how I used to be so against captions for no good reason, and then when I started using them, I was like, oh, this helps me. Got it. Never mind. I'll have to take that and ponder it a little bit. So, and also Jordan wants to tell you that she loves your caption or your analogies because they are fantastic.
Oh, thanks.
And one of our other viewers, Megan, was talking about the buffet analogy, which is amazing. And she shared that she was in a classroom today and thought, why does the teacher have the information on the board when it's on the wall? And we went over it with the students and they have a copy, but it's true that we need to meet all of the students' needs and have, just thinking about having it in multiple places, making it accessible to everyone. And just some inspiration here to learn more about Corgi and Magic School. So it looks like you've got some people thinking, and that's what we're here for. So thank you for sharing all that wisdom. I know in our chats through this whole process, we talked about our own feelings on accessibility and what it means. And we're by no means experts, but we're learning, and that's the whole point, right?
So true. Yes.
So I think we've both grown through this month process of research and talking, and hey, thanks for going through it with me.
Yeah,
so
thank you.
I wish we could talk all day, because this is really like a 5-day course that we could do if we were going to sit down and really dig into it, but maybe we'll take it further next time. So want to get you guys out of here. 30 minutes is all we asked for, so I'm going to try to give it to you. And if you want to, while I'm going through some of our FE services, if you haven't already, drop one of the coolest things you learned in the chat, and just anything that got your brain moving, because again, just a lot of good information. So if you are interested in obtaining or renewing your Google for Education certification, so your level 1, your 2, your certified trainer, we offer comprehensive training experience either in person or virtually, led by Google certified trainers. So if you're looking to add that feather to your hat, something that you might need, we offer that, and it's just a very good resource to know about. And then we have our amazing badges program. So if you need to meet your specific classroom needs and utilize time, because again, Rachel said it earlier, time is of the essence. We're always fighting time. We have an anywhere, anytime EduBadge program. And through badges, you can learn about various topics, various strategies at your own pace that you can turn around and use and implement in your classroom immediately. So you're learning about something when it suits you, when you might need it, and then you're able to see the impact of that learning, of that skill tool in your classroom the next day to benefit your students' learning. You can also earn points while earning those badges that you can turn into contact hours and graduate credits. So it's really an amazing, dynamic, robust program that we offer, and we've got people working really, really hard to bring all the up and coming and new changes and tools that we see every single day, every week to you, so that we're all on top of things. So if you want a little spark of joy in your PD, check out EduBadges. It's an amazing program. And these days, you can't be too careful. So if you need to think about cyber security and you want to brush up on your cybersecurity skills, things that you should be aware of, things that you should just be on the lookout for, and extra steps that you can take to really lock down all of your important information, we have lots of cyber resources available there at that that web address at the bottom. And it's just, again, in this day and age, it's very easy to kind of slip up and forget that the internet is a vast place and things are very accessible. So just double checking, making sure you've got all your checks and balances in place. That's something we can help with here at Forward Edge. And being a coach is a very rewarding and a very challenging position. But sometimes when we're in the, we're out in our districts and we're helping our teachers, we're kind of spaced out from other coaches. And it tends to feel a little isolated at times, even if you're with amazing people that you love. It's good to have a coaching community. So if you're looking for a coaching community, look no further, because Coaches Camp is one of the best experiences that I've had as a coach. I learned so much, and we have those running every year. So keep your eyes peeled for more upcoming coaches camps, maybe this summertime. I think Mateus told us last time that there was another one coming up soon. The more that we, the more people that we see need this, the more that we're going to put out there. So if you're looking for, long-term friendships, you're looking for new strategies, you want to know how to market yourself so that you can help as many people as possible, Coaches Camp is your place. So keep your eyes peeled. And then we just offer so many different resources for coaches here at Forward Edge. If you were here last month, you were with our Mateus Hulsa, who is one of the co-hosts of the Restart Recharge podcast. That's another resource that connects coaches across the globe and helps us to share the wealth. And again, we've got Coaches Camp. We've got the amazing EDU Coach Network that brings people together and gives you that coaching community that we all need and we all love. So an amazing thing to check out. And then don't forget, every third Thursday of the month, we have another webinar. So this is the last webinar of the year 2023. We'll see you again in January for our next one with my friend Lisa, and that will be fostering inquiry and collaboration. It's going to be an amazing one. So if you want to go ahead and register, go to that address down at the bottom, forward-edge.net/webinars. Again, that's where you can find the recordings of past webinars and register for future webinars. So with that being said, I hope everyone has the happiest of holidays. I hope you go to the warmest place in the world and have all the downtime to recharge for the next year. And we will see you in January. Thanks so much for being here, everybody. Thank you, Rachel.
Bye. Thanks.